So, let's continue with a gentleman who is since 2014 the head of transport and automotive industry of the cluster and industry development at Business Region Gothenburg, Sweden. And, you know, it's 10:25 now, but we can still dance. Ladies and gentlemen, Österström.
Okay, so hello everyone. Hello, perfect. So thank you for having me. My name is Österström, working for the city of Gothenburg, Business Region Gothenburg, and as presented, I am head of transportation automotive industry. So working very much with the industrial capacity in Gothenburg, concentrated around the automotive industry. The title of my speech is Sustainable Systems Benefit Both City Residents and the Climate. But given the speeches before, maybe I should change it a little bit. Looking back in history, it's very clear how the present looked like, but what about the future? And I hope that my speech will inspire you and give a few thoughts to how the future can look like from a city perspective and also from a business perspective. First of all, I would like to open up a little bit view of the city of Gothenburg for you that have not been in Gothenburg. We are a population of about 1.1 million people in the greater Gothenburg. We have the industrial capacity within a range of 50 kilometers radius, or 500 kilometers radius. So quite an industrial node in the Nordics. We have 4 OEMs, original equipment manufacturers today, with the Volvo Group making the trucks and the buses and the Penta boat engines and construction equipment. We have the Volvo cars represented in Marcus Rothoff's previously presentation. The Geely company that actually owns Volvo, but also has an engineering company called China Euro Vehicle Technology, making this new brand Lynk & Co. Produced or introduced from the city of Gothenburg region this year. And NEVS, the former Saab Automobile, which is now under a new name, National Electric Vehicle Sweden. So we have some assets and we have industrial capacity. And side to that is that the city of Gothenburg is having great development plans for the future. Basically based on political decisions taken already around 2000, 2005, 2006, where we decided to build a new city inside the city center of Gothenburg. Coming from a shipyard industry, and having a lot of open space unused in the city center. We wanted to make an economical growth in the city, and the city kernel was open to place basically a middle-sized city inside the city center of Gothenburg. This is a 100 billion euro investment project, and it has started. And it's a challenge for us because we really would like to do something for the future here. We want to build something that is future-proof. Seeing what's happening today and knowing that an idea from a building perspective is about 10 years into a full production or to produced unit, 10 years time frame, we know that the technology to match that with a new building of a city will be a challenge. The technology steps goes much more faster than the real estate establishments. So we had to create a vision of the future. And I would like to show you a movie. City of Tomorrow.
Our city has grown up pretty much like all the other cities. And it constantly changes. We become more people, the city grows, we build houses, more roads and parking lots. More vehicles. But human beings also need space. So what would happen if we drive away the cars of today and start using autonomous cars instead? Autonomous cars don't need any signs, and autonomous cars need less space, enabling wider sidewalks. It creates more space for us humans. And autonomous cars can drive and park themselves somewhere else. Look at this commuter station. You will be picked up as soon as you leave the train, because autonomous cars know when you arrive. So this reduces waiting times, less pressure, less stress, and autonomous cars will take you all the way home. Look at this shopping mall. It's just a lot of parking lots. We would not need all of them anymore. We could do something funny. We could have a snowy mountain here. It could be a park instead, with an outdoor swimming pool and a cinema. This is a place to live in. So with autonomous cars, more space is created around the needs of people. Cities become nicer and more beautiful. Streets become safer, travel smoother, less noisy, more space for life. Well, it will be better.
So this was a movie created under the Drive Me project, this collaboration with Volvo Cars. And it was a way to visualize what the future could look like and to inspire, to start thinking a little bit in new terms when we are planning this new city in Gothenburg. As the previous speaker talked about, urbanization that's coming very quickly, and around 70% will be living in cities around 2050. And for a city like Gothenburg, as many other cities, we need to start to think about the residents' demands. So, for example, less injured in traffic, higher transport efficiency, less pollution and noise. We want to increase the accessibility for the residents. We want to overcome social barriers and make the transportation be part of a solution to overcome those barriers. Being able to move to work, go to work every day. We want to make better use of space and make the city much more livable, and by that, getting also economical growth values. So there are a lot of objectives and a lot of things that we would like to achieve. And maybe the trends in the automotive industry can actually help us. Because these are the trends that the automotive industry is also facing at the same time, where we see the digitalization coming very, very quickly, where the physical environment is not maybe the most interesting in the future, but the digital environment as a complement to the physical environment, where everything gets connected, where the cloud environment and artificial intelligence be able to take decision-making based on data that is provided by the vehicle fleets, so that it becomes a better accessibility, for example, in a city, or better transport efficiency. We also have electrification coming in very, very quickly. And we see that in many of the companies that we are working with. And introduction of a lot of new electrified vehicles the coming years. The connected solutions are also coming for all types of vehicles. And this is an example of somebody steering a yellow machine from remote. So basically, you should be able to sit in Finland in 24/7 working with a yellow machine in Brazil, maybe in the future in the jungle, over the night time. A possible scenario. Autonomous vehicles will, of course, also come, and the Drive Me project is one perfect example where we will be testing self-driving capabilities with normal customers to Volvo during 2017 on the streets in Gothenburg. This is another example where we have waste trucks going side to side with the ones picking up the waste. There will be new services coming into the picture, different type of services, and shared mobility will be one of them. So what we see right now is a dramatic change, where the business value that previously were in the product of a vehicle, of a car, maybe in the future will be in the operating system or in the service layer. A lot of new value chains will be created. There will be totally new business models. We see much of cross-sectorial collaboration to meet the challenges of the future, and horizontal integration will be something that we will see in this business. I can just give you an example. The telecom industry is now very much converging with the automotive industry. And a lot of the competence and the people that used to work in the telecom industry is now transformed and working in the automotive industry instead. So everyone will be competing on the same resources. How will this change look like? I think Marcus touched a little bit upon it. We can look at the electrical trend. You see on the left corner, you see in the upper left corner, you see a conventional car. Lots of pieces. And in the left lower corner, you see an electrified drivetrain. Less pieces, other type of suppliers. And how will that affect the business of the future and the countries that supply those pieces? In the middle picture, you see somebody that has put a high emphasis on the driver experience. The product is differentiated around the driver. In the lower picture, you see that the product is differentiated around the passengers. Or maybe the goods. So companies have to reshape for the future customers. And we can see now also a third trend, that we're going from consumption through ownership to consumption through accessibility. So changing from CapEx to OpEx. For you that know the telecom industry, in many cases this has already happened. So the operators are paying much more attention to operational cost and capital expenditures. This is happening also in the automotive industry and in the transport sector in general. The batteries become cheaper. We have seen an enormous cost reduction the last years from quite high values, $1,000 per kilowatt hour, now down to maybe $150 per kilowatt hour. When we reach somewhere around $100 per kilowatt hour, we can say that probably a full electric car will have the same price level as a conventional car. Maybe going to happen somewhere around 2021, 2023. There is a lot of models coming out now that are both plug-in hybrids and full electric the coming years. And how does the society have to change to facilitate that change? So we see different trends. In Sweden, we have CO2 reduction goals. 70% of our CO2 has to be cut till 2030 in the transport sector. And that will happen in different shapes. The business as usual scenario will not be valid. We have to do something. And we know that electrification is one way of handling this. Automation or introducing certain type of autonomous functionality or features will also help us. But the third revolutionary step, the sharing, will probably be the one that makes this an extensive step. So from a city of the Gothenburg shape, we are looking very much also into public transport means. How do we make public transport much more attractive than it is today to other type of users that normally take public transport of today? speaking about electrification, speaking about societal cost of noise. In the city of Gothenburg, we have today a cost figure of 100 million euros per year in societal cost of noise. 1,200 disability-adjusted life years, 100,000 residents that are exposed above national levels, and 30% are affected at least once a week. So you have health problems, sleeping disability, stress, other diseases, but you also have real estate values not going up in certain areas, and these are examples. Very non-attractive areas where you have street noise or where you have non-attractive living close to motorways, where you have noise prevention hindering this livability and making people moving around. And the cost for noise prevention also goes up. We have been looking into what can electrification actually mean to the city of Gothenburg shape. We have measured on buses, diesel buses, gas buses, and electrical buses. And especially in the low-frequency fields, we can see from a noise level a huge drop in noise, as much as 25 decibel difference. And this is a logarithmic scale. 9 decibel is about half the noise level. And if we apply those measures into our noise maps, we can start thinking about how would electrified bus system actually change the city of the future. Maybe we don't need these big noise barriers of 100, 150 meter distance close to apartments. And how can we integrate transportation and make transportation come much closer with the citizens, given an electrification trend? And luckily, there are a lot of electrification initiatives. These are just examples of initiatives in Gothenburg as we speak. So we have the car industry at below, 4 different car brands that all focusing on electrified vehicles now, full electric to plug-in hybrids. We have the second layer where we have everything from electrical cranes picking up refuse bins, to electrical logistic bikes, city logistic solutions, three-wheelers, or boats picking up waste in the canals in Gothenburg with electrical engines. Can be driven during nighttime, not disturbing the citizens. And think about if they become autonomous as well. We have electrical carpools, electrical buses that can run indoors. Of course they can run indoors because they have no emission and no noise. We have the trams. We are going to develop a cable car, electrical cable car system that will be connecting south side of the river in Gothenburg with the north side. That will be part of our public transport by 2021 when we celebrate 400-year celebration. And we have a cycle cluster, electrical cycle cluster in the Gothenburg area as well. 70% increase in electrical bikes the last year. So electrification comes very quickly, and the Swedish government is investing now 1 billion SEK in Gothenburg to build an electromobility lab, a test lab, open test lab for the society and for the business to actually elaborate around charging infrastructure, around the whole system, around electromobility. Another area which we are working heavily with is the autonomous vehicles. The Drive Me project has already been mentioned, but we're also testing on the electrical buses, automatic positioning at bus stop to get a smooth takeoff and landing, much more safer. Self-driving trucks have been tested for some time. This is a platooning, where the one in the front steers and the other one just follows through vehicle-to-vehicle communication. Or the refuse trucks. So how fast will this happen? Well, based on the reports and the know-how from what we have seen is that about 5 to 10 years ahead, most of the cars will be capable of self-driving under limited conditions. Not in all geographies, but where it really matters. Within 10 to 20 years, probably under more or most city conditions. And remember, as I said in the beginning, it takes 10 years from idea to final product if you make a building. So how should we start preparing the building industry now for self-driving vehicles? And how shall the society prepare for this? Well, we need a digital infrastructure to cooperate. And we need to invest in the digital infrastructure. These are different aspects that we are considering right now, given autonomous vehicles. They will affect transport political goals, for sure. They are affecting regulations. You need to start thinking about what is the driver per definition according to law. How to do work with driving license, who takes the responsibility in different scenarios. The societal security aspects needs to be considered as well, and the system vulnerability. The coexisting. Today, a car has an 18-year lifetime. So there will be a period of maybe 10 to 15 years where there will be a coexisting of self-driving vehicles and non-self-driving vehicles. And they need to work together. The user aspects needs to be considered. Both the ones in the car, but also the surrounding, the residents. How will they react on these systems? There will be zoning possibilities, and we need to start to think about the infrastructure and how to connect the infrastructure to make most use of this. What are the public obligations? Is it only regulations? Is it only the roads? Is it the connected road signs? National traffic data clouds? All the traffic information that we have, the maps, the geographical information data. What information should be made available and by whom? We need to consider the integrity aspects, the general data protection regulation that will come into place next year, that discusses personal data versus business data. The security aspects. And who should be responsible for the information that affects the vehicle's behavior? From the vehicle industry, and this is very clear, the vehicle has to be designed to take the right decisions. So it has to be based on both sensor technology, but also connectivity. Dual systems to get full robustness. In the Gothenburg area, we have both test areas for testing this, and we also have real-life scenarios or living labs. So, for example, we have Asta Zero. It's a world-first full-scale test facility for tomorrow active safety solutions. It's a dedicated area of 2,000 acres, just outside Gothenburg. It's an open environment where everyone can come and test their vehicles, or suppliers can test their products. It has 4G LTE cellular network, and we are deploying our 5G network as well. But we also have, for example, electricity project. A project that has been running live in Gothenburg since 2015, with 100,000 residents taking this bus line every month. Where we are trying something that is not in commercial use yet, but working very well, to learn how to scale up an electrified bus system in a city of Gothenburg scale. 7,000 international delegates has come there and have a look at this. Because this is happening now. The estimations are around 2030, 70 to 80% of the city buses will be electrified. Or autonomous shuttles that we are planning now also to introduce. On the Nordic level, there are interesting projects run. For example, the Nordic Way project, which is a collaboration between Finland, Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, and the road traffic authorities working together with industrial partners, testing cooperative ITS solutions over cellular. It's a very important project which is vehicle independent or vehicle brand independent. It is about common digital traffic management infrastructures. I wanted to put this picture on the table as well, hacking attacks. If you look into this picture, you see the car in the middle. And as a user, you could think maybe the car should take the full responsibility. But if you look at it a little bit more thoroughly, you see that there's a lot of different interfaces that in the future will interact with the car, that will be connected. Some of them will be self-driving, some will not be self-driving. Independently, most of the cars will be connected in the future, and many are already today introduced on the market. And as we can see on the left side, the telecommunication network, if that is malfunctioning, that will affect the car. If somebody can hack the traffic lights, that will affect the car and the transport system. And the human factor, 50 to 100 million lines of code in one car. How many bugs is introduced in a new release? 100,000 of them. So this is an area that society also has to consider. And everyone that is designing something that will be part of a system where the car will be utilizing the connectivity has to think about how is the transport system affected of my design, of my code, of my system. It's not only in the future the car responsibility, it's the whole ecosystem that has to start consider this. If we use data the right way, we will be able to take very corrective actions to steer energy use scenarios with autonomous vehicles. But it can go in any direction if we don't steer it. For example, platooning or eco-driving, congestion mitigation, that will have maybe a positive effect in less energy used. But maybe because of the travel cost reduction, we will have more vehicles in the streets. You know, with autonomous vehicles, or vehicles in general, the transport work is about 40 to 50% of the total cost. And what about the future when there is no driver? Maybe not in 5 or 10 years, but a little bit later. Will that mean that there will be more vehicles in the streets when the travel cost goes down? Or cost for making goods going from one place to the other? So we need to steer this in some way. We know that autonomous vehicles will define the house in the same way the electrical vehicles will do. This is an example of the electrical vehicle driving into a library. It doesn't only show that the electrical vehicle can drive indoors and stop in totally new facilities, but it also shows that there can be totally new business value integrated with a transport solution in the future. Here's something good for the residents. We had 300,000 visitors lending books in this library for 1 week when we put up this facility. But maybe in the future they will be able to drive into stores or other places. And what will this look like with autonomous vehicles instead? So there will be new designs based on this. And the autonomous vehicles may become in 5 to 10 years. It takes 10 years from idea to final product when you build things. So, by running these type of projects, like Drive Me project, electricity projects, and other type of projects together, academia, the private sector, and public sector, we can start working together on what are the opportunities with energy efficiency, traffic flow, and traffic safety, for example, with autonomous vehicles. What are the demands on future infrastructure and city planning and parking space? What are the best matching traffic scenarios? What are the citizen demands? What are the use cases? How will the citizens behave with this new technology in place? Which are the regulations or policies that we need to redefine? And just to give a final example, what this has already meant to the city of Gothenburg. We are not building any car parking below or undergrounds anymore, because we don't know if we will be needing them in the future. So they need to be flexible, reshaped to maybe office space or to other type of space. And just as an example in this case, what will autonomous vehicles, how will they impact the car parking space as of today? Well, you don't need the same type of surface of the space. It can be totally dark inside those parking lots because there will be human beings. You don't need to think about security aspects because there will be no one in the parking house. You can lower the roof because no one will be standing there. So you get an energy consumption, and you can pack them much more thoroughly. A lot of different aspects. One parking lot, 300,000 crowns cost. So this is just one example which we have been running a project together with the industry to see, okay, how will the future parking house look like? And there will, of course, be a lot of different new examples which we'll have to reshape based on this technology. And we need to bring that into our work with the future city of Gothenburg. Okay, I hope I had the opportunity to inspire you a little bit about the future and how we think about it. And collaboration is the key. Thank you.